So in part 2, we're going to talk about designing a survey. How do you think of a survey question that has no bias? Well, there's really no such thing as a survey question that's not going to have any bias. However, you can get the least amount of bias if you keep the question simple. The simplest question is likely to be the least biased. So in problem 3, designing a survey, during the 2008 Olympic Games, a U.S. swimmer won more gold medals than any Olympic swimmer before. What sampling method could you use to find the percent of students in your school who recognize that swimmer from a photograph? What is a survey question that is likely to yield unbiased information? Well, one way of sampling the students is to question every 10th student who enters the school building in the morning. This is a systematic sampling. Anytime you have a system for how you do the sampling. So we could do every 10th student entering the building. That's not the only way we could do it. We could do a convenience sampling, so maybe we question the students going in and out of the cafeteria. We'll say students entering the cafeteria. The reason it's convenient is because you don't have to go far. You don't have to go around the building trying to find people. I can't even spell. Let's try that again. Convenience. That looks like the word convenience. The systematic sampling probably has the least bias, though. A possible unbiased survey question is just, who's pictured in this photograph? It's really just as simple as that. Who's in this photograph? Don't even say, who's the man in this photograph? You don't want them to necessarily know if it's a man or a woman. Just say, who is pictured in this photograph? If they don't know, you say, okay, and you write it down. If they do know, you write it down. If they guess the wrong name, but they took a guess, you write it down. So, in review, we had these sampling methods, the convenience, the self-selected sample, the systematic sample, and the random sample. The convenience is when you select members of the population who are convenient and readily available. The self-selected sample, when you only select members of the population who volunteer for the sample. The systematic sample is when you have an order to how you select people. You select people at regular intervals. And the random sample is when all members of the population are equally likely to be chosen. Most sampling methods have some sort of bias. When you do the homework for this section, there's not necessarily one right answer. You and the person sitting next to you could come up with two different methods of bias in a question, and they both could be right. Some of the study methods you can perform to get information are an observational study. That was where you measure or observe members of a sample in such a way that they are not affected by the survey. A controlled experiment was when you divided people into two groups where you impose a treatment on one group but not on the other. So you have your control group and your placebo group. And then giving a survey where you ask every member of the sample the same set of questions. Remember these when you are working on the homework. Remember to answer things in complete sentences. Be clear and be confident in your answers. Remember, there's not necessarily one right answer. I'm grading you on how well did you convince me that your answer is right.